introduction. What's poppin', beautiful people? Hope you're doing amazing. Gotta get the energy up, okay. So, I had a funny experience yesterday. I went to go watch Don't Worry Darling, but then I ended up also movie hopping and going to watch The Woman King. And to be honest, the trailer was not doing it for me. I was like, if it's gonna feel too girl power, if it's gonna feel too like girl powery and yay and inaccurate, and if the music isn't good, and I was worried about the accents and the casting, I didn't want to watch it, to be honest. And I know I should be supporting Black films for sure, but I was just worried that it would not be the best. Boy, was I wrong. I actually liked The Woman King as a movie better than I did Don't Worry Darling. So just to walk you through my entire movie watching experience at the theater, which I recommend you guys should watch at the theater. Here's a little scheme. You can just buy a child ticket. I probably shouldn't say this. You can just buy a child ticket, and this stays between us, me and my 62 subscribers. You just buy a child's ticket, and if they've never questioned me ever, and if they do question you, just say, I bought it for my sister and she couldn't make it, so I didn't want to waste the ticket, so I went myself. Easy. So the first thing was that there was like an updated Wakanda Forever trailer that I saw, and it was good. Like, I loved the original trailer that was posted that everybody saw, but the second version that I think is only being shown like before movies and theaters, that was great. Wow. I feel like for a lot of my life, I wasn't able and allowed. Sorry, Theo is really getting on my nerves today. Breathe in, breathe out. I feel like for a lot of my life, growing up in Canada and America, I wasn't able to, mostly in America, wasn't able to fully embrace and love the fact that I'm African. It's so wonderful to see that we have things like Black is King by Beyonce, Black Panther, and now The Woman King. There's so much more African representation. I've said this before. I wish there were, instead of so much focus on making 1600 different period pieces on England or like the world wars, can we diversify? I want to hear about Thai history. I want to hear about Ugandan history. I want to hear about Colombian history. Like, why are movies not being made with a more global context? Why is it always about European history? Like, it's probably like, it's all what we're taught. Like, damn, guys. Anyways, I will say, as a part of my movie-going experience as well, my favorite thing in the entire world is to go to a movie where there's a majority Black audience, because you're paying for the experience at that point. The times where people would bust out laughing, or the times that there was like a comment made in the movie that's meant to be like a little spicy, they'll be like, whoop! And like, it'll be noticeable throughout the entire movie theater. And so I just love going to watch movies where there's a majority Black audience, because it's just much more exciting that way. I do want to clarify, the accents were much better on this movie than I think Black Panther, because Black Panther was a little bit atrocious with the whole, the power of the Black Panther will be stripped away. Like, bro, who was your acting coach? No, not your acting coach. Who is your dialect coach? Who is your dialect coach? Because, no hate, bless that actor's heart, but as an African, and I'm not even West African, but I knew that it was completely off. Let's talk about the cast. Let us talk about the cast. I had recognized a good amount of faces. I was also worried about Viola Davis. Viola Davis is an amazing, well-renowned actress, don't get me wrong. But she's not I don't know her background, but I feel like her parents probably didn't immigrate from Africa, so she probably wasn't around the accent a lot. She did great. She did a great job. But for me personally, the star of the show was Lashana Lynch, and she played a character called Izoki. She played a character called Izoki. Sorry, I'm gonna forget names. She did an amazing job, and I didn't even realize that a lot of them are like London people, so they probably developed the accent with both training and also just I think a good amount of them have like immigrant parents, and so they probably just grew up around it, which is why I think it was like an improvement this time around. But Viola Davis did a great job. Also the main actress, hold on, I need to figure out her name. Her name is Thuso Mbedu, but I could be pronouncing it incorrectly. That girl looks like she's 16, but she's actually like 31. I was like, wow, she did an amazing job. She portrayed like a childlike but strong, deep character. And there's a scene, I won't spoil for you, but there's a scene that is very gut-wrenching. And the way that she just broke down and cried, like I started tearing up. It's not very hard to get me to tear up, especially in a movie theater. But wow, they all did an amazing job. I think the cast was brilliant, and I just love seeing an all-black cast. It's not what we're used to. And did you guys see that? Did you see Theo? Whatever. The cast, wonderful. Acting, impeccable. And accents, better than Black Panther. Quick thing, this sort of relates to the cast as well, or cast and crew. Whoever was on the set for hair, like whoever the hairstylist was, amazing girl or boy, because wow, the braids were beautiful. There was a lot of diversity in the types of hairstyles that they did. And I noticed they had, there's this one tribe in Africa that specifically they have like this red, like almost clay that they use in their hair to help elongate it. And they had that incorporated in there. So I was like, they definitely had Africans on set. The hair was a beautiful touch, and it's just so wonderful to see braids being done. Like there's a scene where Igosi, and also, sorry, her name is Izogi, not Isoki or whatever the heck I said before. There's a scene where Izogi is doing the hair of Nawi, who is the main character, and it was just so wonderful to see someone on a big TV screen, someone doing someone else's hair, and they're two black women, because there's just like black women and hair is a whole different conversation. But to see that represented on the big screen, I wish I grew up in like another generation so I could see that as a child. It would have been so helpful. But honestly, at the end of the day, I'm happy that it's being shown regardless. Okay, now that I've given you a couple of specific details about the film, let me just at a high level explain to you what the film was. It is basically, the film was a lot of things, and there was a lot of things that the film wasn't. I do want to preface this by saying there's a lot of controversy around the movie and how it's almost glamorizing the slave trade, but I genuinely don't think it was that way. First of all, this movie does not claim to be history. It's just meant to take an aspect of history and then fictionalize it. Like, a good amount of these characters probably didn't exist. Now the king, his name was King Gezo. He was a real person, but not everything he did in the movie actually happened in real life. So I do want to preface by saying I understand there's a lot of controversy around the glamorization of the story, but I think it wasn't meant to be a documentary. It was meant to be a Hollywood version of history. And so I'm just honestly happy that there is even a conversation around this. Like, people know who the Dahomey are now. Like, people have a better understanding that Africa is not a country, but a continent. And I'm not trying to discredit people who are like boycotting the Woman King. I think there are better ways to go about it, but I'm not discrediting those people. I'm just saying I understand your points, but we're talking about, like, it's doing something good somehow. But basically what this movie is about, it stars Viola Davis. Viola Davis plays Nemiska, and she is the leader of the Agogie, who are this all-female tribe in this all-female group of warriors in the Dahomey tribe. The Dahomey tribe is led by King Gezo, who is played by John Boyega. The story hits a lot of different topics, But one of the things it talks about is how these women would go and fight the Oyo tribe, which was another tribe that was selling slaves. In that time period, my understanding, it was either be sold as a slave or sell slaves. And I know that's very black and white, and slave trading goes without saying is a bad and horrible thing, but that's the understanding that I had from reading and doing some research. It was also very wrong. The Dahomey tribe, it follows how these warriors were able to go against the Oyo, and also how they were stuck in a position where they knew that they wanted to gain more economic development and become more rich. And the way to do that, the way to become super rich, was to sell slaves. What they would do is they would conquer other villages or rival villages, take the villagers and then sell them as slaves. Completely wrong, and it's mentioned in the movie. They don't go into very much detail about that, and I think that's why people are upset. There is a history lesson in there, and I don't think that I can tell you everything in just a short amount of time. So I put a link down below for an article that I read to help better understand the dynamics of everything at that time. Funny enough, sort of embarrassing. And it also explains how humans are just humans at the end of the day, and we are somehow inflicted with greed. Apparently it was the British who told the Dahomey to stop, specifically the King Gezu, to stop selling slaves, which is wild, because I thought, for a long time, I just thought that it was black people who, I mean, there were moments like this for sure, but I thought Africans were just being stolen from their country. I didn't realize that Africans were doing this to other Africans. And I didn't mention this, but the Dahomey, this entire, the history and the movie is set in West Africa, specifically in the area that's now known as Benin. I don't want to spoil too much or go too in depth with the entire movie. It definitely is not what I expected it to be, because it hits a lot of different things and it follows a lot of different character arcs. I just didn't expect it to be such a well-rounded movie. It has action, it has romance, it has what else does it have? I'm gonna stop. I'm just gonna say it's a well-rounded movie. Overall, I would give this movie honestly, I really like the movie. And I don't know if it's because I'm biased, because how could I forget? How could I forget the music? I am a movie soundtrack, read my lips. I love movie soundtracks, and this movie soundtrack was almost as good as the Black Panther one, if not the same level. The Black Panther one that one took me a long time to even process. This movie soundtrack was amazing, and so I say all this to say the music was impeccable, and I think that added to the grandiose, powerful, inspiring themes that came into the movie. For that reason, I would give it a 9 out of 10. I may be biased, but I genuinely think it was an amazing movie. I really, really loved the fact that we got a movie that has African history at the core. So that is my review. Look at me. I've been so consistent. Guys, I deserve a cookie or something. Anyways, love you all, and see you in the next video.